Welcome to CS264 Software Design. This is lecture 2 and lesson 2, and in this lesson, it's a short one. I'm going to show you how to get started with C# development. Last time I mentioned that you should really install the .NET environment, your SDK, and probably I'm recommending VS Code or Visual Studio Code. And once you have the two of these, you should be good for working with this particular module. I'm going to be using macOS and I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code for macOS here, but I've checked that all of these things work with Windows 10. I haven't checked the Linux development at this stage. Okay. So what we're interested in doing is we're interested in developing console applications. Now, it's the simplest of the applications that come with the .NET development environment. And you can use this once you've installed it to develop all kinds of apps, mobile apps, web apps, REST APIs. But we're mostly interested in object-oriented software in this particular module. So what are classes? How do we design them? How do we combine them? How do we build design patterns? And we don't need fancy interfaces in order to make this work for patterns. And of course, you use the patterns in all of the fancy apps that you might have, but we're just looking at the core software engineering elements of this particular module. So we're mostly interested in console applications. And they're very simple applications that execute in a terminal or a command window. They have very simple textual user or file input and output. So as long as you have a development environment that can work with console apps, you should be fine in terms of the computing requirements for this particular module. In a later lesson, I'm going to show you how to build a REST API using C#. I'm going to show you the demo that comes with Microsoft. But the reason I'm showing you this is to give you some sense of the power of the language, that you might think it's simple because you're doing simple stuff, but actually you can move to very complex stuff really, really quickly. And we looked at RESTful APIs in CS230 last year, so you might be interested in playing with C# for those projects. So anyway, the demo that comes from Microsoft is super, and we'll look at that a little bit later. I'll also demo how to build a simple design pattern with C# later as well in another lesson. And you can see how we can use code, C# code, to build design patterns and run them. And the pattern we're going to look at will be the singleton pattern, and it's useful, a useful pattern, even though it's simple. The main point of that, of course, is to show you how to get up and running with pattern design and C#. But for now, we're interested in Hello World because we always are. Okay, so we want to initialize a C# project. So the first thing you need to do is open a terminal, create a directory, go into that directory, and issue the command .NET new console. And that will create everything you need in order to be able to do this. So I've done this a few times already. I have so many different directories created at this stage. We just go into that particular one. So we'll go into my app, and and we see what's created. That I haven't created already. But the first time I did this .NET new console, which allows us to create a console application, we ended up getting all of this stuff that tells us a little bit about the SDK that was installed. So I captured that just to have it for you. But mostly, you'll see this short message here that tells you ultimately that the app is created. It created a project file. It also creates a bunch of other directory information, so runtime information here in this object directory. You can see it's a directory. Okay, if you work through it. And we have this file called program.cs. Now, that's the actual program that's run, and we can run that by issuing the command .NET run. And I'll do it over here in the terminal on the left, and we'll go .NET run. You can see it happening here, and you see it issues Hello World. So by default, when you create a new console application with .NET, it creates this Hello World program for you, and it shouldn't be too unfamiliar because there's this line that writes out the code Hello World. You'll see this void main string with arguments here and a class program. It's an object-oriented development language, C#, so it should not be a surprise. See the word class appearing, and you're using some other information. I'll explain these a little bit more detail in the next lesson. But as that, you can run the project. So you've created and run your first C# program. It's not too difficult to do. What we want to do, of course, is we want to work with VS Code if we can at all. So I probably have it open already here. I do, and so let's look at some of the files. So you can see that I've opened this directory, and I went in and I said issued code, my app, launched the code, and you can see that I have that information here about the directory information about the contents. And you can see now that this is the program, and The thing to know, I suppose, is that the first time you launch VS Code with C Sharp, you'll be asked if you want to install recommended extensions. So you get this message down at the bottom of the screen, and you just say yes to install. It's useful. Then when that's done, you should get a message that says, "Do you want to install recommended extensions for C Sharp?" You should say yes and install those as well. And once that's done, you should be able to open a terminal within VS Code and run. And you can see I have the terminal here open in my VS Code, and I can go, I can issue, so I've typed in .NET Run in this window here, and we can watch it happening, and we can see we get the hello world. So we have everything working fine here. And with this window, of course, you can just, you can turn it off and turn it on using the command single quote, and it's fine. So you can do all your work within the environment here, okay? If you're using REPL, you can go there with your C Sharp. I mean, I think I should have it open already. I'll just stay on the page, yeah, so it's fine here. And so this program was created automatically when I went and opened the C Sharp application or program with in REPL. I just run here, and if I run, it starts the output in this window here, and it's using Mono, and I can see the hello world works just fine here as well. So if you're not working with your own installation, you can still do the work and do the practice for this particular module. Okay, so that's everything really set up that you need to do to get working with C# applications. Microsoft have some really nice interactive demos online that you can look at. You can run these applications in a browser. They have their own virtual program playground, and you can click the link through here. This document again, I'll upload this document, and you can see the Hello World tutorial and work from there. And it's very nice. W3 Schools also have an online playground too as well with examples, but we might see some of that next week. Thank you very much for watching.